Hello, I can talk today about Such a Fun Age, a 2019 novel by Kiley Reid. This is a novel set in 2016 when Hillary Clinton is a shining presidential hopeful, and a young black woman, Amira, is accused of stealing the 3-year-old white baby that she is babysitting. They're in a grocery store, and one concerned white woman reports to a security guard who comes up to him, and there's a confrontation. The confrontation gets filmed by this other kind of white dude, Kelly Copeland, and the unfolding novel is sort of exposing sort of just all about a lot of stuff about the characters, both black and white. Different kind of just the racial, social, and sort of gender politics of this particular time. This is Reed's debut novel. It's longlisted for the 2020 Booker Prize, and it was partially inspired by her own experiences as a black nanny in her 20s. In this book, there's a feminist white influencer, Alex, who sends Amira and her 3-year-old child, Briar, to a grocery store, and where she gets accused by the security guard and is taped by, this is filmed by this guy named Kelly, who is sort of white knights the situation, and they have this whole kind of conversation just after the thing saying like, oh, you should expose this, you should you could sue them, you could make a lot of money. And Amira's like, yeah, no. That's not going to happen. I do not want that to be basically that will define me as a person for the rest of my life. If I'm trying to apply for jobs, this is what's going to come up first. It would the amount of the money or whatever that this might get me in the short term would be as far outweighed by me becoming that girl, which she has no interest in being. So she gets she gets him to send. She says like, just delete it. He's like, no. You should at least hold on to it. So he sends it to her, and then he deletes it off his phone. So she has the thing, but she basically just shoves it away. So what happens as we go forward is it's like Amira is at that stage of being a 20-year-old where she's not really sure what she wants to do with her life. She's in her late 20s. All her friends around her are getting more jobs, getting health care. That definitely comes up as like, that's one of these big things being an American. It's like health care, pulling yourself up the rungs to the point where if anything actually big happened, you would be covered, which is that big kind of economic dividing line in America. But she's not really sure what she wants to do. She actually likes being a babysitter to Briar. She has a really good relationship with this kid, really seems to kind of understand her, gets a feeling maybe that her mother is not so much interested. She's had another baby. Alex has had another baby in the meantime. And it's like, oh, that baby is kind of more docile, more kind of just cute little girl. And it's like, she can feel that this Briar is not going to get the kind of the support that she deserves, she needs in this family as well. So she feels a strange kind of duty in a way, also just sort of her own maybe kind of tendencies of like, I'm good with this child, but it's not a job that's going to lead anywhere other than just being this family's she's a babysitter right now. The best that she's going to get in this family is being a nanny. Now, the interesting thing about all the characters around her, both her friends, both Alex, Kelly, who becomes her boyfriend, a friend of Alex who is a black woman, sort of more Alex's age, is they all have plans for her of they're going to decide what to do, and they're all pushing her in their various own agendas of like, this is what we think you should do with your life. And so she's kind of got to deal with that of like, she's not really particularly a lot of the time in this novel being respected as her own person. So, and this is a novel about, a lot of about this is, will Amira, find that in herself to be her own person? Because in some ways there's a lot through this novel. She is a fairly passive character that and sometimes you feel is like almost inviting these people to push in because she's not pushing out hard enough to do it. But thing. So this novel is great at getting to the kind of the subtle kind of racism of kind of of this the white people that she's running to in this novel are not your drooling the stereotypical drooling rednecks who use racial slurs. No, these are all white people who are half the time both Kelly and Alex are competing to point out each other's racisms. That Alex she somehow that Amir has sort of fallen into. She puts on one of these sweatshirts with the logo of Alex's company on it, when she goes to work. So it's like, oh, so Kelly's like, oh, so you're wearing a uniform. So you're basically are that kind of black nanny with a uniform, where where Alex is pointing out that Kelly is somebody who fetishizes black culture, that only dates black women, that all has black friends. It's like he's fetishizing. He's that so much embracing the black culture that he's basically he's fetishizing it. So there's that it's that kind of racism. And there's also just the good thing of portraying the especially kind of queasy thing of employing someone to be a part of your family. You're paying someone to be a part of your family as a babysitter or as a nanny. And just you can't help but think in the background is the long history of black women doing the emotional work of raising white children, and sacrificing their own lives in the pursuit of that, and of lifting up these white children, sacrificing their own life. Maybe if they have their own children. Alex is not. Amir is young enough that she does not have that at this point, and especially in this context, is Alex is definitely this kind of a white feminist who, she could have it all, but is she having it all by, sucking a young black woman into her orbit who is going to do all the emotional work with her child, and also looks like she's trying to get her to become her friend, but it's still employed. So it's that really the novel is really good at kind of getting at that kind of all that very much kind of queasy, subtle stuff that can allow a lot of white liberal people to say, oh, I'm not racist at all, when there is all this really uncomfortable power dynamics, both of racial politics, but also generational and economic politics that are unequal, and are exploiting, are there to exploit Amir as much as they say we're helping Amira, we're helping her, we're gonna decide what she does and push her to what's best for her because we know best somehow. Both Kelly and Alex are both definitely kind of guilty of that. The dialogue and the pacing in this are breezy arch, maybe kind of filmatic, which can be taken as like, oh, if this is especially since was nominated on the Booker long list, it's like, oh, well, this isn't literary because it sounds it's written snappily, and maybe the characters are a little bit kind of arch and a little bit kind of just easily identifiable. You get that kind of, you have to quick characterization of a film. So it might lead. It sort of led me at the beginning of the novel to go, oh, this is very kind of, I'm outside of my comfort zone because this isn't kind of literary fiction. This is more kind of breezy, light contemporary stuff. So at the beginning, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not taking this as seriously as I should. That actually changed as the novel went on, and you started to see all the different things that Reid was getting at in this novel, but doing it in this kind of bright, snappy sort of way, not in a serious, I am great literature, you must take me serious, I am some old white dude who's going to thing, or I'm very poetic, so you must kind of ponder all my metaphors and stuff like that. It's like, no, she's going to kind of go into this stuff, but kind of incorporate things that are social issues in actual storytelling. So I actually appreciated that. I came to think that this was a strategy that really worked, was really smart in this novel. Now, there is a narrative twist that happens. There's a connection between a couple of the characters that gets revealed part of the way through this thing. That is like, as I was listening, it was like, oh, come on, you got to be kidding me. And, it's one of these things of like, if you have a coincidence at the very beginning of the novel to kind of kick it off, you sort of like, oh, okay, I accept that. And then we just kind of go from there to see what the novel is. When it happens so far into the novel, sometimes it's like, oh, come on, you got to be kidding me. Then it's harder to accept. But I think for me, the thing was, it's like, it was what happened after that. Like, how did she use that coincidence to power the novel? And she really did use that coincidence to power the rest of the novel and to kind of make it surge forward. And it actually really picked up after that. It's like it became much more biting and a much more pointed criticism of American society and of these characters. It helped peel these characters back more. So in the end, I forgave it. But I thought, it's like, no, this was effective. This was an effective use of, okay, you're going to use a coincidence in a novel, you better use it for a good reason. And I felt like the novel used it for a good reason, and that Reid used it to power her novel. So I in the end, I accepted that. I can understand why some people would just roll their eyes past this point and go, nope. But I thought it did. I ended up accepting that. So this is a historical novel. This is one of these things where, it's a very specific time period. I mentioned at the beginning, this happens like at the beginning of Hillary Clinton's kind of push to become president of the United States. And we all know how that ended. And the T word is not mentioned in this novel, but it definitely is bookmarked of the beginning of that and the crashing end of that. And I think that's important, that this is a historical novel. This is a novel that is saying, like, we're not going to go into what becomes more blatant and open racism of a certain type on the right. This is a novel that is very much going with the kind of the Hillary Clinton kind of white feminist liberalism. And it definitely is kind of one that is definitely an examination more so of a relationship between a young Black woman and a slightly older and more powerful and more privileged white feminist woman. So it's very much kind of, you can see why Reid is really, again, smart, really, has picked the perfect period to kind of to examine that summon stuff. Such a Fun Age got nominated for the Booker Prize, which I think inevitably led to people kind of questioning, is this literature? Is this something that's worthy of getting, done up for the Booker Prize? And I'm not particularly going to address that kind of criticism. I think you can rightfully have your own criticisms of the book. It's a debut novel. There's that coincidence. There's just kind of the light breezy tone of it. Maybe that is the case. Maybe it's just you didn't think it captured the characters well enough or stuff like that. I thought it did a fine enough job. Funnily enough, this is a book that in some ways reminded me of Victorian novelist Anthony Trollope, which might be seen such a stretch. But Trollope was somebody who used a fairly light tone. He would use kind of comedic tones in his novels. There would be kind of love triangles and stuff like that. But he used all these kind of maybe more contrivances of plots to kind of dig down into the issues of the day. They were novels that were really interested in the issues of Victorian England of the time. And I actually think that Kiley Reid with this debut novel is sort of doing the same thing. She's using kind of what is kind of a light, breezy tone, snappy dialogue, very kind of contemporary sounding, contemporary figures in her novels to explore kind of the deeper social, political, gender issues of her day. And as that, I'm comfortable kind of thinking about her in the same terms as someone like Anthony Trollope, who, nowadays all his novels like, well, they're set in the ye old days, so they must be literature. I think because those stories still sing, they still work. Those plots still work. They involve you. And I think, for me at least, Such a Fun Age did that. It accomplished that. It was I bridged that leap at a certain point in the novel and wrote it, and it was fun. It was thoughtful. There is a definite kind of satirical thing here, which for me wasn't she very kind of gently, lightly picked apart a lot of these characters and had a lot of very kind of incisive things to say, but you don't get the sense that she's trying to kill the patients as she's doing it. She's like gently kind of just revealing all this stuff and laying them bare in a way that was quite humane. Which is one of those adjectives that I would I apply to Anthony Trollope, and I would apply to Kiley Reid, at least in her first novel. We'll see how things go from here, and I would definitely pick up other books by her as they come up. So yeah, that's my review of Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. More videos later.